Hi there, it's Simone. Today I want to talk to you about my ink journal that I have started quite some time ago. And I just used an old Hobonichi A6 in the avec size because that's what I had as a Tomoe River notebook. It was from 2021 and I didn't use it at that time. I think in 2021, JetPens sold the full set for a really cheap price, and so I stocked at in the middle of the year. I think maybe they still had so much stock that they knew they weren't able to sell, so they had a really good price on these, and I decided, well, they're Tomoe River paper and great notebooks, so why not buy them and use them for something else? And that's exactly what I did. So I started this with the intention to explore the inks that I have currently inked in my fountain pens more, but at the time that I started this, I was doing so many other things that I wasn't able to keep up with this. I also felt like it wasn't giving me as much information as I would have liked. The fun thing that I think about these when I'm exploring these inks, besides looking at water, the ink chromatography, the different layers here, is seeing how it writes with different nibs. And I had these two dip nibs. This was a regular glass dip pen, and then this was a fine metal dip pen that didn't really work, and it didn't bring me as much joy as I thought it would. Then I saw other people transcribing books, and that was a super interesting idea, and I thought I would be able to maybe incorporate that into this journal. And I went back for some of the inks that I still had in my stash and made writing samples with different nibs. Now, what I would do is I would use an extra fine uninked pen. I would use different dip nibs that had different widths. I would again use another pen with a 1.1 step in this case, or if I had the ink in a pen, I would just make that entry with that pen. Now, after each of those sessions, I would have to clean the dipped fountain pens quite thoroughly, because even if I was just dipping the ink into the pen and not inking up the whole pen, the ink would still travel up the feed, and I would have to rinse it very thoroughly, especially the TWSBIs. I would struggle. And so this, instead of making a lot of fun and bringing me joy, was super tedious. I also feel like when I started this, of course, I would make this entry on the right side of the page. However, with this huge ink blob, what would happen is I would make it, and then I would have to wait to write, or I would have to remember to start on the left and write my writing samples first, and then add the ink blob and all of those things. And then I also allotted 4 pages for this spread, but it doesn't really make a lot of sense, especially for those pens where I don't have ink bottles but ink samples, to have a full page dedicated to writing samples with different nibs, because most of these samples are empty after one use, or I use them twice, maybe 3 times, but that's even stretching it, especially with 2 milliliter samples. Or if I know that I don't like the ink, why would I keep inking it into pens? So that didn't really make much sense to me. And this information right over here, I started adding to my swatch cards on the back, which again, I think is a better place for that information. So it's an evolving process, and some things just don't turn out the way that I like them to turn out. And so over the past months, I didn't really add any entries to this book because it was just on the back burner. It was one of those things that I would do eventually, but eventually never happened. Especially since I also felt very compelled to film this. And because it takes so much time to dry, there's always turning the camera on, turning it off, continuing the filming process. And it just didn't bring me joy. So fast forward to this past week, when I have been so inspired to keep making entries in this journal. I made one maybe 1.5 weeks ago. This, when I uninked my pen with the Krishna Cassia Flora, I was like, this is the last ink of the sample. I did not have anything left in the sample vial, or maybe like droplets. This is what was used to finish the ink sample. And I also had the ink that I had in the pen, and that's it. But I really, really loved this ink, and I wanted to see what it looked like in different pens. I wanted to see what the chromatography looked like. I wanted to see it layered up. And so I sat down and put this in here. And when I did that, I was like, I really do love digging deeper into those inks that I am currently using. So another inspiration came in when I don't know if you follow Liane Likes on YouTube. She also has an Instagram now, but her ink swatches are always so fascinating. She uses a little metal kitchen tool thingy that she repurposed for the swatches. She puts a drop of ink there, then turns the metal thing around, and then she has this perfect, amazing circle. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to do this. And this, like, I want to do one of those swatches paired with, I have this ink journal and I want to explore the inks that are in my pens, made me realize that, even though this book isn't full, even though I started this ink journal in a specific way, doesn't mean if it's not working at the moment that I have to continue the same way. So what I did is I sat down and started new. I put the ink swatch on the left side and I just used whatever I had. I have one Opus 88 fountain pen that has an ink eyedropper with it. So I took that out of the box and now I'm using this. I have these acrylic blocks for stamping that I can totally use to make an uneven circle. And then I am using this Kakimori dip nib, and I am practicing getting different line widths with the pen, with the nib, and I will flip through the entries that I have already made. I moved around the things on the page, so I moved all the exploration things to the top so I can start making them and adding layers and having them dry while I'm writing on the bottom of the pen. And then I decided, nope, I am not going to use fountain pens anymore for this. I am going to make do with what I have. And I do have the Iro Utsushi from Pilot. This is a dip nib with a medium nib. I do have a Moonman glass nib Moonman dip pen. I have this dip pen that I received from Trufe, which is quite broad. Again, I have the Kakimori brass dip nib, and I decided this is what I'm going to use for these writing samples. And it's so fast. I've been doing these around dinner making time. So I start with this, and I do this, and then I start making dinner, adding the writing sample, waiting for this to dry while I'm making dinner. And every time I have used a fountain pen in the past week in my journal, I was able to create one of those spread. And I call that a success. And not just a success in the productivity way, because I don't have to be productive, but successful in how much I enjoy it. I enjoy it so much that I decided to invest in the Sailor Hokuro dip pens. I think I ordered 3 of them, so that I can vary things up. There is a fine nib included, a 1.0 stub nib. I'm going to try the Fude nib, and then I can just rinse them out when I'm done without a lot of like work that I have to do after this. It's really easy to rinse them out and then done. At the same time, I am also, with this one, there was so little ink left, I was able to make some art. Now I'm looking for the art because I totally put it away. I put it into my letter writing thing here because I want to include one into my next Happy Mail, but I just used scraps of paper. This is an old Hobonichi weeks that I didn't use, so I ripped out the empty pages, and then I made ink spots there. I added some stamping and then some washi tape, and I'm going to just send this to friends so that they can add it to their journal. I was inspired by my friend Amy, who sent me this, and it's interesting to see how when you get inspired, things don't look the same. So this is what she sent me. She used one of those Yamamoto papers that she purchased at the San Francisco Pen Show. And I just used what I had at hand. I have some book paper right here. I have these scraps of paper that I cut off when I transformed an A5 Tomoe River notebook into a standard size Tomoe River notebook. And so if the ink sample is super low, I'll just, or even if I have some residue on here, I can just, off stamp these, the ink that is on here onto this, and then make some little ephemera bits and pieces, collages for friends. This is so much fun, you guys. I'm so excited. So the way that I have set this up now, so I have this little teeny tiny tin here where I have all the utensils that I'm using for it. I'm using the Kakimori dip nib. I'm using this Iro Utsushi. I decided that I'm going to use this glass pen because it's broader than the Moonman glass dip pen, and I'm thinking I still have the metal feather thingies, metal nibs. I'm thinking of maybe giving them a good soapy rinse and trying them again until my Sailor Hokuro pens arrive. And then if they work really well for me, I will switch to those mostly. And then I also have this travel brush that is not really working for me for art, but I can totally add water right here. It fits into this box. I have everything that I need. This is where I rest my dip nib. Then there goes the ink vial. I have my chromatography strips, and it's fun. So I still have 1 page gap in between because I don't like having the bleed through. I'm totally okay with that. The only thing that I'm not really okay with is this writing down here. I would love to be able to have more writing samples at the bottom, maybe. I did, when I ordered the Sailor Hokuro pens, I bought 2 of the Hobonichi A6 notebooks that do not have this at the bottom. And yeah, when they are here and I'm done with this, I will decide if I'm going to go use those or if I'm using the, I still have a full yearly set of this, or if I'm going to use those or not. We will see. So I did the Diamine Winter Spice. I love how the writing turned out on this one. I did the Krishna Got Green. And then I did, the last one was last night. For some reason, this did not turn out as well as I liked it. I knew that it would be more interesting, so I redid it. Need to still stick it in here. I did the Ferris Wheel Press Stroke of Midnight. And so yeah, so I'm adding this splotch here, and since I don't have a perfect circle, it's never going to be the same, which, you know, I can be inspired and still do it my own way, and it's not the exact same copy of someone, which I really love. It gives it my own personality. And then I'm adding where I got the sample from, the name. Since I am focusing on all the inks that I have inked in pens, I do have a writing sample of the pen here. So I write what pen it is in, what nib size, when I inked it, and just a little review on how I liked it. Then I add all those. This is a water test. I dip this for 1 minute. I leave the water on for 1 minute so I can have a comparison throughout. Like I do it the same amount of time. Then I add 3 layers of ink. I put a rectangle of ink right here and then use water and the brush to activate the ink to flow over here. This is kind of like a similar chromatography as this, just on the Tomoe River paper. And then I write my writing samples. I used some of my affirmation cards I wrote the same affirmation over and over. Same here. Then I moved back to the book that I started to transcribe right here. And yeah, this is what I'm still doing. I'm not decided on which one I will continue. Both have pros and cons. Yeah, that's it. I'm super excited. It's so much fun at the moment, and I'm going to continue doing this as long as I enjoy it. I hope this was informative for you. I hope this gave you a little overview on how I do my ink journal. I have been adding the monthly, like the ink that I explored on the date where the first entry is. I'm not sure that I will be continuing this, especially when I'm using a different notebook. Then I maybe just add a list of things. It's actually even a list in a list format would be even better. Now that I'm thinking this or talking about it, it would be better to have the inks just listed. And so I wouldn't have to flip through tons and tons of pages in the front to figure out which ink I might want to look at. I tried to add have different comparisons here, but that was just not working for me, so I stopped it before I even really started it. The sorting by color families is done in my ink swatches, and that's it. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any comments, questions about this journal, if you have one yourself and you share it online, I'd love to check out yours. I always love to see other people's way of exploring inks and having different solutions. So please leave a comment to your YouTube video, to your Instagram, blog, whatever, wherever you share it online. I'd love to see. All right. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you soon. Until then, bye.